Hey y'all, welcome to the channel or welcome back. My name is Deja. As you can tell from the title of the video, I am going to talk about how I've been experiencing Jehovah-Jireh, okay? The Lord had placed it on my heart to record and share this video because of the season that He had me in and the season that I'm actually transitioning into. So I do pray that this video inspires you if you find yourself in a strange season where you may not know what's going on. You may have just lost your job. Money is a little different, right? So I do pray that this video inspires you, that you can get some nuggets out of it and all of that. So if you're interested, please stay tuned. Interestingly enough, you all, Jehovah-Jireh is actually only mentioned one time in the Bible. I didn't know that. In Genesis 22:14, we see when Abraham is about to offer his son, his only son Isaac, as a sacrifice to the Lord. In the midst of that, an angel stops him. And then the Lord provides a substitute sacrifice with a ram in the thicket, okay? And so Abraham ends up calling that area Jehovah-Jireh, which means in Hebrew, the Lord will provide. Although the name Jehovah-Jireh is only mentioned one time in the Bible, we clearly can see the Lord's provision all throughout the Old Testament and New Testament. So one of the many ways we can see the Lord's provision in the Old Testament is when the Lord provided manna. We all know that, right? The Lord provided manna for the Israelites while they were in the wilderness for 40 years. Where we can see the Lord's provision in the New Testament is when the Lord wanted the disciples to feed a large crowd. And what happened? There was only 5 loaves of bread and 2 small fish. The Lord broke it and it multiplied, right? And so He was able to feed 5,000 people. And what happened? There were some left over. That's the testimony and the miracle, okay? So again, there are many ways we can see the Lord's provisions. So how have I been experiencing Jehovah-Jireh? Okay, just a little backstory. I may or may not go into more detail in another video. We'll see how that goes. Back in 2022, the Lord instructed me to go to another state. And around that time, I didn't have an idea when, but once I get instruction from the Lord and I get confirmation, I start to plan. So initially, I thought the Lord wanted me to move there permanently. Fun fact about me, I do not believe in paying rent. I think it's a waste of money, okay? And at the time, I was still living at home, and I always said if I were to move out, is to buy a house or not to rent in New York City, because I just find that to be a waste of money, right? I might as well just save up for a house. But throughout this entire process, I had been inquiring of the Lord every step of the way. So it didn't matter what I wanted. What did God want from me? I was like, Lord, do you want me to buy and purchase a house? And I didn't hear anything. As I was looking at homes in the state that He wanted me to come to, I just didn't feel led to purchase a house. So I scratched the idea. I was like, okay, that's fine. But I'm still saving up for this move. It wasn't until I want to say spring of 2023 when the Lord told me exactly when I was to come to this state, all right? March 1st of 2024. And I'm like, all right, Lord, I'm excited. So I'm looking at apartments, I'm looking at all these things, but y'all, what about a job, right? I gotta look at some jobs. But again, I did not even feel led to look at jobs. Isn't that interesting? Very interesting. I did not feel led to look at jobs, okay? So I gave that over to the Lord, but I was also like, Lord, how am I gonna pay rent? I had some money stacked away, but I really truly didn't want to dabble into that stash. I wanted that only to be for a home. So around this time, I started getting nudges and confirmation here and there regarding travel nursing. And anytime someone would bring it up to me, I would just push it off because I'm like, I'm moving to another state it doesn't truly make sense to me to pursue that right now. I'm moving. So that was my mindset. It wasn't until the end of 2023 where I just was not hearing the Lord about moving and anything anymore. And I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to pray and fast, all right? And I am going to ask you do you want me to pursue travel nursing? Okay. Do you want me to pursue travel nursing? Right? So I got that confirmation. And again, one thing about me, once I get that confirmation, I'm on it. So that day I started reaching out to agencies, and in January I started working with recruiters. So if you're not aware, this is how travel nursing works. Okay. Travel nurses are hired through agencies that are in contract with certain hospitals that are looking to fill a need, okay, within that specialty you work in. So the recruiter submits your profile to the job postings, and you get to pick and choose whether or not you accept and want to sign a contract with that hospital. And you get to stay there for at minimum 3 months, and if you like it there, you can extend. It was a little different for me because, one, I already knew what state the Lord told me to come to. Two, I knew when the Lord wanted me to be out here. So my last day at my other job that I was working at was going to be like February 25th or something of that sort. So in January, there were postings in the city that the Lord told me to go to within my specialty, psychiatry. Apparently, I was a little too early. Like, even when I was applying for housing, the landlords will come back to me and say, you know, you're still a little early. They have to wait to see if the nurses that are already in that unit are looking to extend their contracts or whatnot. So it really depends on who's already at that unit, how long is their contract, and all of that. Those postings, they wanted me to start at a certain date, okay? But the Lord told me to go March 1st. And so I'm like, yeah, I cannot. And y'all, I personally was not stressed out. Why? Because I knew that I was to come out here with or without a job. Okay? I was like, the Lord instructed me back in 2022 to come out here March 1st. So I have to go back on that original word. That I'm supposed to be in this specific city, right? At this particular time. Okay? And He will figure it out. Truly believe, and I'm sure you've heard this saying before, if it's His will, it's His bill. Okay, so I knew the Lord was going to take care of it. But thankfully in February I was able to secure housing. And the thing is, y'all, I was super blessed with this particular apartment. Okay, for one, the landlord did not ask to see my contract because I did not have one. But I did tell them that I was working with a recruiter. Although, remember I said I wanted a house, right? Although, I did say if I were to have an apartment, I would want a balcony. I would want an extra bedroom for prayer, okay? And some other things, y'all. This apartment checks most of it, okay? And it's really cute. I love it. Oh, and it's furnished. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing, y'all. It's the biggest thing, okay? So I was truly blessed with this apartment, right? So 2 weeks before I was supposed to head on out to this state, I'm cleaning my room, straightening up, and I find a letter. Now this letter was unclaimed property funds from when I refinanced my loans back in 2022. This letter was sent January 2024, and I opened it the following month. Y'all, I have a bad habit of not opening certain mail. Okay, I need to get better. But the fact that I found that letter 2 weeks before me coming out to this state shows that, okay, God, you're really about to be my provider. And I'm gonna hold on to that. So around this time was when my recruiter was saying, this is crazy. Usually we find postings in the city, but I don't know what's going on. A lot of the needs has shifted from the city that the Lord told me to come to a completely different city within the state. Now, it ain't New York, okay? So it's not like I can hop on a train to go to the next city, or, you know, in New York, you hop on a train, go to the next borough. No, it's nothing like that, okay? These cities were about 3 hours away. So I was like, okay, Lord, what's going on here? And I even was telling my recruiter, I was like, and my recruiter happens to be a pastor. So I was just telling him, I was like, yeah, maybe the Lord just wants me to step out on faith and then the doors will open up. And so he was just really encouraging at that time. All right, so fast forward, it's March 1st and I'm in this new city, okay? I'm in a new apartment and everything. Now, I don't hear back from my recruiter. What's going on? It's like crickets, okay? Come to find out, he was actually sick, right? And so I didn't hear back from him. But when he came back, there was still no postings. But let me tell y'all how God works. All of March, okay, I was getting paid from my previous job. And it was interesting because I had used up all my time. And so I'm like, where is this money coming from? Is it back pay? Another way the Lord provided was in late March, early April, I received my refund check. Y'all. And throughout this entire time, I've always tithed. Always. So, but in my mind this time, when I got the refund check, I was like, do you want me to tithe this, Lord? Do you want me to tithe this? And I remember he said, I will give it back to you. And I'm like, okay, God. Literally the next pay period, I received $79. And I thought that that was the last of the paycheck from my previous job. So I was like, all right, God, we're in this thing. But you know what? I shifted my perspective. This was a time when the Lord was teaching me about not complaining and gratitude and all of that. That $79 was groceries, all right, for 1 week. So lo and behold, it's getting a little dark, y'all. But lo and behold, y'all, I received my last check on April 26th. Remember the Lord said he was going to give me back the money I tithed from my refund check? The Lord tripled that, okay? He tripled that with this last check. I thought the $79 was the last of it, but he surprised me that last pay period. I will say that each pay period, my check was decreasing slowly, but it was still enough. And one thing about me, I'm a saver, okay? I spend, but I save more, right? So a lot of those things, you know, I tithed, but most of that I was saving because I truly did not want to tap into the money that I saved for a house, okay? That I was saving for a house. I did not want to tap into that savings account. So I made sure every paycheck that I was receiving, I stewarded well. And around this time, I started seeing why the Lord was leading me to this particular state. And although I was not working physically, spiritually, the Lord was pruning me. He had me in like an incubation period, okay? And prepping me for something. And he was teaching me so much, all right? And preparing me for what's to come. And I received a prophetic word from a church that I found out in this state. This lady prophesied to me and say that the Lord has issued me into a season of rest. And that was something that the Lord confirmed to me because I had just came out of an assignment at my previous job where I was pouring myself out, and the Lord said this was the time for him to pour back into me. So imagine if I was working, okay? That could have easily been a distraction from what the Lord wanted me to take from this particular season. The lady also said that people will start pouring into what I'm doing or sowing into what I was doing. And my mom had it in her heart to sow into what I was doing. She saw what I was doing as ministry. So she started sowing every pay period for her. Another way I experienced Jehovah-Jireh. I ordered some groceries from Instacart and the person had dropped it off around the corner instead of in front of my building. But I didn't know this. So I contacted Instacart and they sent the same groceries over to me and included Instacart Plus into my account, all right, for a month. Then I go outside for a walk, and then I realize where the person dropped off the groceries. So I go in there and I say, hey, was there Instacart order dropped off here? And they said, yeah. So I got 2 sets of groceries, y'all. God's provided. I want to talk about how the enemy tried to derail me off of the path that God had for me, and try to rush me out of the season that I know was orchestrated by the Lord. So the first day of me coming out here, March 1st, I meet a Christian married couple. Someone had complimented me on some Christian attire I was wearing, and that led me into sharing my testimony. I exchanged numbers with the wife, and we're talking for a good while, and then we set up a time to meet up. She's getting to know me, I'm getting to know her. Fast forward, I'm in Target, and there's a young lady that comes up to me and compliments me on my outfit. She's talking to me about what she does and how she's learned so much from her mentors and all of that, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And she allowed me to pray for her and do all of that, right? We exchanged numbers. The thing about me, y'all, when I first came out here, I was in complete consecration. I was like really trying to hear from the Lord, just making sure that I was in sync with God. So anybody that I met out here, I prayed about, because I had never been here before. I had no friends, no family. I prayed about every single person. And I'm like, Lord, if this person's not supposed to be in my life, please remove them, or please reveal their plans, okay, if they don't have good intentions. Tell me why the second young lady that I met, she sends me this long message here, and basically I didn't know at the time, was a part of an MLM, all right? And granted, if that works for you, cool, but my discernment was like, I don't know, what is this? And so I went to the Lord to inquire. I'm like, Lord, is this something you want me to pursue? And I didn't hear anything from him. And I also just didn't feel led, right? The next day, the lady that I met the first day I was here sends me the same message, or it's like a script that they have. I wasn't caught completely off guard. You want to know why? Because when I came out here, I was very clear. I wrote out what I felt like I was called to in this season, how the enemy was going to try to distract me, how my flesh was going to try to attack, okay? So on the list of how the enemy was going to try to distract me, I put he was going to try to present counterfeit opportunities to rush me out of the season that I was in. So I was already aware of the enemy's scheme. During the season, the Lord was also strengthening my discernment of people. When I went to Target again after those 2 encounters, someone else came up to me. No numbers were exchanged this time, okay? Yeah. So those were the ways that the enemy was trying to derail me, y'all. So the Lord may have you in a season where the provision looks completely different from what you're used to. All right, you're used to that steady income, right? I understand. But don't discount the ways that the Lord is providing. Ask the Lord to open your eyes to see his helping hand. So let's think about Hagar and Sarah. So in Genesis 21:8, Sarah kicked Hagar out along with her son, okay? And they enter into the wilderness of Beersheba. Around this time, they run out of water, and Hagar is crying, right? But the beautiful thing is that the Lord opened her eyes to see a well of running water. And this was after the Lord had promised to Hagar that he was going to make her son a great nation. Another lesson that I learned is that sometimes the Lord will usher us into a certain season in our lives in order for us to experience certain characteristics of the Lord or certain names of God. But it's nothing like having your own experience with the different names of God. So for me, I've always had a job ever since I was a sophomore in high school. I was making $15 an hour, which was above minimum wage at the time. I always had my own money. I never had to rely solely on the Lord for income. Never. So although there were different reasons why I was in this season of the wilderness, okay, he also was showing me that now I can rely on and praise Jehovah-Jireh because of my personal experiences that I've had with him. For those who feels like that they're in a wilderness season, let's look at Deuteronomy 8. The title of this passage is Remember the Lord your God. It says, every commandment which I command you today, you must be careful to observe, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land of which the Lord swore to your fathers. And you shall remember the Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, to test you, to know what was in your heart, whether you will keep his commandments or not. So he humbled you, allowed you to go hungry, and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man shall not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Lord. Your garments did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. Verse 5, it says, you should know in your heart that as a man chastens his son, so the Lord your God chastens you. So when I tell y'all, when I read that, I was like, all right now. So I knew the season that I was entering in. He confirmed it so many times that I was entering into a wilderness season. And I made sure my perspective of this wilderness season was positive, because this was the second time I entered into a wilderness season. The first time was when I rededicated my life to Christ. And so God was laying the foundation for me. This time around, he was really preparing me for something else. So if you think about it, he allowed those counterfeit opportunities to come my way to see whether or not I will idol worship, right? To see what was really in my heart. To think, okay, the Lord's not answering, so I might as well go after these opportunities. I don't even know these people from Adam, but they're talking about money. I'm going to go for that, right? We shouldn't be complaining about the provision that the Lord provides for us. Just like the Israelites received manna from the Lord and they were complaining about it, they received punishment for that. So I want to just leave you all with these scriptures here. 2 Corinthians 9:8 says, and God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that you, always having all sufficiency in all things, may have an abundance for every good work. All right. Then in Matthew 6:25, do not worry. Therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothing? I'm not saying he's not going to provide these things, all right? He's just saying let's keep our focus on God in all circumstances. And in Philippians 4:19 it says, and my glory shall supply all your need according to his riches and glory by Christ Jesus. All right, so I pray that this video bless you. Listen, there's a lot of light shifts going on. But I'm so glad if you made it to the end. Thank you so much. And again, pray the Lord is always by your side. Just seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all things will be added unto you. All right, take care. God bless.